So those of you, so in any case, so we'll go and get started for tonight. So tonight we're going to do, so first off, welcome to Rise. I guess I should say that. So tonight we're going to be talking left of boom, and I titled it, Hold On to Your Butts. And the reason why I did that is because it is kind of an interesting topic. And first off, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Rob Garbee. I am a CISSP, Certified Ethical Hacker, for what that's worth. I'm also one of the main founders for the Roanoke Information Security Exchange, and I'm also a network security engineer at Carillion. So, hey, come on in, Doug. Have a seat. Drinks and t-shirts. So, in fact, I owe you a t-shirt. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're just going to walk through left and right of boom. And I really should have titled this Left and Right of Boom, but the name of the book was Left of Boom. So I kind of tried to stick with that trend. So this is Left of Boom. So before I get started, I do need to just go ahead and throw out this disclaimer that my head's in the way there, but the views and opinions expressed here are not mine, or excuse me, they are mine. They're not associated with Carillion. They're not associated with any of the affiliates or anybody like that. So if I go off the rails, please don't call Nancy Agee and say, dude, you got this idiot working for you. She probably already knows that I'm a charity case, so just let it go at that. Now, I will say, because I think it's good that I think it's important that we lend credit where credit is due. This presentation is largely based off of a web article that I read by this Tim Malkenvetter. So I've included a link there. So please take a look at the actual article. And that's and to get more info about what we're going to talk about tonight. Okay. And this is going to be relatively quick. I think it's all of 12 slides. So plenty of time to hang out and chat. So we're going to start with the story. So the story is like this. The story is you're hanging out with your friends. Maybe it's Thanksgiving dinner, right? And we're having a great time, and you're living your best life because you're a cybersecurity engineer and you're making all this money and you're having a great time and you're doing all the wonderful things that we do. And you're hanging out and you're eating food. It's Thanksgiving, and that night you decide, that night you go to bed and you're just zonked out. Everything is perfect in your world. There's nothing that could affect you at this point. And then at 2:30 in the morning, at 2:30 in the morning, you get this call. So, well, if we're on call, we're always on all call, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're always on all call. Like my wife always says that she's going to start a support group for information security widows. But she said, so you get this call and it says, we need you here right now. Something's happened and we can't get to anything. Like that's the standard statement. We can't get to anything. The internet's down. Really? The whole internet? Like all of the internet is down right now? So everything is down and we need you here now. So this is what I like to call the boom. So welcome to the boom, okay? And so the boom is essentially at its core, the unwanted or bad actor event. It's your first contact with the offender. So tonight, we're not going to talk about DR, but you can look at the boom as a lot of things, right? We can look at the boom as a DR event. We can look at it as a malicious attacker event. So tonight, we're going to focus in on just malicious attacker, but you can in your head kind of think of, you can extrapolate this concept to many, many different areas, DR or business continuity, or even in this particular case, malicious actors. So that's where we're going to be. That's where we're going to focus in tonight. So let's consider that the boom is the initial unwanted bad event that we just hit. So what we're looking at here is the left of the boom. And this is actually supposed to be a build slide, but it isn't because it's in presentation form. So we're going to just deal with what we got. So what we're looking at here is the left of the boom. And in left of the boom, we see that we have the asset inventory, and you've got your right, the before events, right? Your security engineering, your vulnerability discovery, your threat intelligence, your automated prevention. So if we're looking at the boom event, we're looking at some sort of ransomware, attack lockout, account lockout, some sort of data exfil. But now what we want to do is we want to look at the tools that we're looking to put forth in order to try to prevent the attack from happening. And so we put in all of these tools. And if you notice that as the tools continue to increase, really what we're doing is that we're building to prevention. Right? An asset inventory by itself doesn't really do a lot, but when we couple that with something else, like a SIM solution or something else, then we can begin to build these tiers to prevention. So, but really when we're talking about prevention, any of these tools that we use really are detection tools with mitigations. So we put in a firewall rule, really what we're doing is that we're detecting a pattern and then mitigating based on that pattern. Or if we're putting in an IDS rule, it's really detecting a pattern and then we mitigate based on the pattern, right? So even in our phishing, like, we have Proofpoint at Carillion, and as it's going through its process, it's looking for a pattern. It's looking for something that it recognizes as that's bad because it does this and this and this. That must mean it's bad, so I'm going to block it. So my question to you is, did the boom actually happen? And we just mitigated the boom so quickly that the impact was so insignificant that we never really acknowledged the boom, right? I mean, you follow me there? So, I mean, it's a theological, well, it's not really band-aiding as much as it is if you really think about it. I mean, it's kind of like this, it's almost like this kind of weird question, like, did the boom happen or didn't it? And so my thought is that it kind of did. Because
to block it, though,
right, exactly. So if you blocked it, then the impact was so insignificant that it almost like it didn't happen, right? So, and you can go on both sides of that, but let's just say for tonight's conversation that the boom occurred, okay, just to make me happy. And there's a reason for why I say that, and we'll find out. So on the left of the boom, and this is where our defenders live. The defenders live left of the boom most of our lives, right? We concentrate left of the boom. I want more things to protect me left of boom, backups, any of these tools that we try to, because we want to get to that point of that IDS protection rule, that phishing rule, whatever, so that we are not impacted by whatever attack is coming at us. We want to get to that insignificant boom, right? So then let's look at the right side. So the right side of the boom is a little different. So the right side is where our adversaries live. They try to get past the detection tools to get to the right side of the boom. So when we're looking at that side, we have to get from one side, from the beginning of the boom, all the way to containment and eradication. And what does that take? So the very first thing that we see is that we're going to get some sort of alert. So I got a question for you guys. So obviously, before we know that the boom has occurred, something has to tell us that a boom has occurred, right? So what is the free resource that every business has that is probably one of the best alerting mechanisms that you have? It's completely free. Every business has it without a doubt. If you've got 2 employees, you've got this.
Users.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Because they are just like that call in the middle of your user population are the quickest ones to tell you that you've got a problem. Because they're the ones that are going to call you in the middle of the night and go, nothing works. Right. And we used to laugh about this when I worked at ITT. We used to always say our best, like, we don't need a SIM, man. Our best alerting mechanism is our user population, because they will immediately tell us when the manufacturing floor goes down. Like instantaneously, something doesn't work, we're going to know about it immediately. So when it comes to alerting, I mean, we need to have the SIMs and we need to have all these functions, but listen to your user population. When they're telling you something is slow, something doesn't feel right, and I do it too. I'm quick to like, really? Like the whole internet is down? Come on. But we need to listen to them. We need to try to listen to what they're telling us, because maybe it's not what they think it is, but it may be indicative of something else that's happening that they're not aware of, right?
Like something that's poking around, something.
Right,
trying to
exactly.
penetrate.
Right, something is happening on the network that possibly we're not seeing because they've been able to, maybe they have been able to get past our detection methods. And now they're actually working toward doing something and our users feel that, right? It's awful slow today. The network is
Yeah.
slow, right? That's so subjective. Slower than what?
Because they're consuming the resources all day, every day. So all the users have a baseline of how things should be.
Right,
So they're
exactly.
very in tune when things aren't as they should be.
Exactly. So when we see this, we need to think about that. So, and then we've got, but let's kind of walk through this. So here we've had the boom event and we're looking at our sim alerts and, or maybe like you don't have a sim, maybe your company doesn't have one, but maybe you're looking at your logs and, finding out that, man, I see this particular user logged in, but we let him go like 6 months ago. How's he logging in still, right? So maybe you're seeing that. And so so as you're walking through these events, as you're detecting them, then the next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to triage the event, right? Is it serious? The users are telling me it's slow. Let me look at that. Is it really slow? How important is it? So we have to triage the event. Then we decide that, yes, it is an event. So we need to declare an incident. So now what are we doing in this? How are we going to manually mitigate? Are we going to manually do it? Is there some sort of automated thing that we can do? You're going to have to go through these tools and try to figure out, well, what are we going to do? How do we mitigate? And then you determine your scope. How widespread is it? How deep is it? How wide is it? How far does it go? And then you just kind of go down that rabbit hole for a little while. And then finally, you get to containment and eradication. Finally understand it, try to deal with it, contain it, and then eradicate, okay? So all the while, your adversary is living right of boom, right? So they are living in that world, waiting for eradication and containment, all the while pivoting and particularly if they've been discovered, right? So that's what brings me to the next point. So we good on left of boom and right of boom. I think I've kind of beat that dead horse pretty well. Okay.
And then don't they try to play a game with you? Sometimes try to see if you can catch them.
Sometimes, okay, I'm gonna have to move my head here. All right, so race against the adversary. So this is where I wanted to go here. So for those of you on the WebEx, it's race against the adversary. And here, maybe I can move my head. I'll move my head over here. So now we're looking at racing against the adversary to get to this point of we're trying to get to containment and eradication, whereas the adversary wants to stay in that right side, right? They want to embed themselves in and constantly try to manipulate. So it's really interesting that once they've been discovered, now they have some choices. If they know they've been discovered, where's my mouse?
It's left of the brain.
Yeah, it is. It was actually. So once they've been discovered, they begin to have choices. And if they've done any recon on your environment, they're going to maybe understand how long it will take for you to get to containment and eradication. So if I have two choices of doing some sort of thing in your environment, and I know that you're really good at backups, you're really, really good at backups. Well, maybe ransomware is not where I want to go. Maybe instead, maybe I'll attack your Active Directory because you do nothing. Like your Active Directory absolutely sucks. I could live there for months and you'd never know. I can create users and I can do all kinds of cool stuff and you would never know because you don't do anything in that area, right? So I can live in that as opposed to doing a ransomware attack. And maybe you're not really good at understanding data exfil. So I'm just going to exfil all your data, and then I'm going to ransom you because I've got it, and I'm going to do one of these public release statements. So if you don't pay me so much money, I'm going to release all this information, as opposed to a ransomware attack where I just encrypt everything locally because you got all the backups. Well, if I've got all your data, it doesn't matter if you got the backups. You got it and I got it, right? So be thinking about in the context of when you're living right side of boom, what are the areas that you are weakest in when you're in the foot race of getting to containment and eradication. Because once you're living in right side of boom, it's a foot race to get there. They know it and you know it. It's a matter of who gets there and who can entrench themselves longer. So, and they're going to do this by looking at once they're trying to look at these tactics, they're going to do things like, but when they're doing the recon, it's the social engineering, it's the data collection, maybe it's a dumpster diving. They're going to live in that world trying to do the recon to try to understand what do you really suck at so that I can be better at that than you are. And so an example of that most recently is ransomware versus these AD attacks. So maybe, like I said, maybe instead of doing the ransomware attack, they're going to attack your AD. I did cover that. So, and maybe removing all the domain admins from your Active Directory, and they're the only ones that have the password to the core domain admin. So, what are you going to do?
Like a golden ticket attack.
Yeah,
At that point.
yeah, right. Unless you've backed up your Active Directory and can recover your whole Active Directory. So, how many people in this room that are using Microsoft Active Directory have backed up your Active Directory tree, like all of it? Right, one person, right? Like how many people are actively backing up your Active Directory, every piece of it, every computer, every username, every SID, everything. So if I come in and I trash your Active Directory, you're done. Like I've not encrypted one piece of data in your environment, but I have effectively made your data you can't inaccessible because everything's permissioned through Active Directory, right? So just think about that. So when I was, so we've talked about this. So I guess I skipped that one. So when I was a younger man, I was quick to run into the director's office. Oh, we got this going on. We got this major event. We got this major event. And he kind of got tired of hearing the major events. And he looked at me and he said, Rob, what's the so what? And I looked at him and I said, what? He goes, what's the so what? You're telling me this and this and this, but what's the so what? Why do I care? So when you come to me and you tell me, I want you to tell me what's the so what is. So you've got 15 domain admin accounts locked out. So what? What does that mean to me? As a business guy, what does that mean to me? Right? Well, that means that we can't administer the Active Directory, so that's a problem. Okay, that means something, right? So here's my so what. So what's the so what? The so what is embrace the suck, okay? And what I mean by that is it's gonna happen. We're gonna have to live right of the boom at some point in our career. I know that I have done it at least probably 5-6 times, okay, at different organizations in varying degrees of severity. You know, sometimes it's as simple as a minor thing. Sometimes it can be a major thing, right? Embrace the suck. Know you're going to be there and prepare for it. So when you're preparing for right of boom, what you need to do is you need to think like they do. So when you're looking at right of boom, kind of think about your weakest points. What are your weakest points that you have? Your Active Directory. Maybe you need to start thinking about what you need to do to back up Active Directory. Maybe you need to think about detecting data exfil. Maybe you need to look at, you know, the big one, ransomware. What are you going to do? And run through those tabletop exercises. Take a day, take an entire day. We just did that not too long ago at Carillion. We grabbed our incident response team. Who all was in there? I mean, it was like communications, the attorneys. I mean, we had everybody in this big room. And our CISO said, we just got hit with ransomware. Now, what do we do? And we walked through it. And it was a really cool exercise because like the communications guys were like, we're going to do this. And legal's like, oh, no, you're not. No, you're not going to do that. No, what you're going to do is what we tell you you're going to do, right? And then, or like our patient transport, what are they going to do? right? So we had to walk through that because we still have to provide care. So we walked through this whole entire process. And it was really cool because we got to see, oh, I did not realize that you needed to do this before I can do that. So it was a fundamental exercise that we lived right side of boom for a little while, right? So walk through those things. And then if you're backing something up and you're telling yourself you're backing something up, make sure you can recover. And I got a little story for that. So day one at my job at CommWorld in Roanoke, Virginia, I had just come from MBNA America, Maryland. And I moved into Lynchburg, was back home, got this great job. Day one. And the boss looks at me and says, and I was just a network guy. He hands me this huge printer, this LaserJet printer. He's like, I just need you to put this on our network. Like we were like a PNS or a SciComm company, but I'm just putting a printer in for the billing lady there in the office because they didn't have anything for me to do yet. Yeah, I can hook up a printer. Yeah, man. So I take the printer, put it down, hook it in. There's a UPS right there. Plug it into the UPS, turn it on. Boom, everything dies immediately. Like in the secretary, the secretary is going, like, what happened? And I'm like, I don't know. I just plugged it in. Like, I don't know. So turns out those old LaserJet printers back in the day took a heck of a lot of power. And I immediately drained the UPS of every ounce of power it had in a matter of about 2 seconds. And it just drained it, like just completely drained everything and just completely shut everything down. So that wasn't the worst part because, you just plug it in right and just bring everything up. No, silly me, sorry about that. Plug it in, bring everything back up. Yeah, what was the name of Fox? The old database before Access, Fox something. It became Fox. It became Access later on in its life, but Microsoft bought it. But it was some Fox something or other database. And they're like, oh, well, I can't get my data. Oh, okay, we've corrupted the data, and now I'm starting to sweat. Day one, like I've corrupted the database, the billing database, everything is trashed. And the boss is like, it's okay. We've got everything on backups. And they hand me I don't know if you guys remember them, the little cassette thingies. Like, what do they call them? The track 80s or something like that. I mean, we're talking way back in the day, right? So I put it in there, go to recover. It doesn't work. Well, let's go back to the night before that. Nothing. Let's go back to a month. Popping in tapes to the point where we're starting, you get to the rotation, right? They had been backing up for months to what they thought was a good backup, had never tried to recover. So needless to say, the boss looked at me and said, well, that's the worst first day anybody in this organization has ever had. I'm just going to tell you, you're going to get a pass just for that alone, but we're never letting you touch our database again. So I did end up recovering the database in Access. I actually built the database back from scratch through different varying ways, but long story short, do your backups work, right? Have you tested your backups? Have you lived right of boom long enough to actually test your backups and know that they work? And have you recovered anything? And then the last thing I've got is live right of boom for a while. What I mean by that is tune those processes, just live there. Just take a week and just live right of boom and think in your head, what do I need to do? Where are the things that I can improve on? What are the processes that I can make better? And it can be as simple as how many people do I need to call? What people do I need to call? So, and I'll kind of end it with this. So this is simple stuff. And you kind of go, well, we all know this stuff. Why do we want to talk about this stuff? It is a different concept, different way of seeing left of boom, right of boom, right? Well, the reason why I thought it was pertinent at this time is because of the time of year. We're getting ready to go into the holidays. And while we go on these massive holidays and we enjoy our Thanksgiving dinners, so back to the beginning of the presentation, and we're enjoying our Thanksgiving dinners, or our Christmas dinners. Our adversaries are not, because they may not celebrate the same holidays that we celebrate, or they may not feel the same way about certain things that we feel. So to them, it's just another day of work. So while we're enjoying all of our time off, how many people are planning to take some time off during the holiday seasons, right? I know I am, right? 4 or 5 days if I can, if Jared will let me.
And we're vulnerable.
Right. And so then those are prime targets for us to live right side of boom. So I'm curious to know at the end of the year, how many of us will have said, yep, I lived right side of the boom for some of my holidays. Hopefully nobody. But there's a chance that we could, because you know, who's watching the as you know, who's watching the farm, right? So that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's kind of a quick presentation tonight, so I'm not going to bore you guys with a lot of details, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me at regarbee@growingclinic.org or info@roanokeinfosec.com. And I am going to go ahead and unmute everybody. Maybe. Can you guys unmute yourselves? You should be able to. Yeah, okay. All right. So you are able to unmute yourselves. Okay. So I am going to turn up the volume here. Actually, I've got it turned up all the way. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot them out. So I'm kind of done with the presentation at this point. So does anybody have any questions at all? Yes.
Was the GPS plugged into AC power?
Yes. I don't know how it happened. I just know that
Is there any data on those tapes?
I don't know. We weren't able to recover much of anything. If it was, it was really bizarre.
Yeah.
It was the backup solution was oh gosh, man, it was very popular back then. No, it was before Veritas. Whatever Veritas was before Veritas. Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about, right? It was Veritas before Veritas was, and then Microsoft bought Veritas and turned it into their own backup solution.
Funny thing about even with backup tapes and even backup solutions altogether is if you're storing them off-site and somewhere else. I've seen places where they actually just make the tapes and just store them in a box in the data center. And it sucks when you get a hard in the data center.
Or in this particular case, it was just in the secretary's drawer next to her desk. So
I've had it, we store them in postal boxes, like the boxes at the post office. I know at a bank. You bring the little
oh yeah, the safe deposit box.
boxes. We take them and put them in. Who knows what other magnetic is going on around there? You just hope that they're storing in metal safe deposit boxes. Okay.
You got people storing magnets all around you.
Neodymium magnets in the next lockbox over. Hopefully not.
But
And the thing is, what happens if you need it when the bank's closed?
Yeah. Oh, you better hope they have some sort of 24/7 support. Back Monday.
right, bank holidays.
I have a story that'll kind of build off that. So when I was newish at my last job in the security industry, they would throw us in all kinds of things. So one day they're like, all right, Jared, this is IR event. We're gonna send you in with some other people. And so me and these other people weren't incident response guys, and we've never lived right of the boom per se. So we get there and we're like basically running around like, all right, what do? We gotta check the firewall logs, and we need to find the hash of the malware and try to block that, update the antivirus signatures. And they're like, you guys need to hold it down. We have another guy driving out of state. He's gonna come and help. So we're running around, nothing's working. We're able to contain it, but we're not able to do any intense forensics and figure out what the spread is, because none of us have ever done that before. And then in walks this guy who's just as chill as could be. He just comes in, we've been there 24 hours at that point, living off donuts, literally like locked in a room trying to contain everything. He just walks in, he's like, all right, guys, here's this USB, plug it in. All right, start loading these tools. And he was just cool and collected. And he's like, yeah, I've just done this a million times. So I know what to do. I've practiced it. I've lived it. So we'll just, and he wasn't flustered. He wasn't confused. He had practiced. And so it was no big deal. He very cool, calmly, collectively just did what he needed to do and got everything running. You know, it's because he had practiced it, and he had lived there. So when in any scenario where something bad happens, I'm also in the military, so I know very well that once
Happy
things,
Veterans Day.
well, thank you. So once one thing starts floating around you, that adrenaline kicks in, like, or when you get your call from the boss, everything's down, like
Right.
your brain starts scattering and you start trying to do too many things at once. But if you practice, you can sort of muscle memory or brain memory onto what you need to do. And it makes things so much easier. So tabletop exercises,
Yes.
stuff like that are so useful.
It
Yeah.
allows you, I think, to be more proactive as opposed to reactive.
Yeah, and you
know,
can
and when you're
analyze
reactive, you're not thinking straight.
what you think you might do in that scenario. You're like, oh yeah, if we have this event, I'm gonna do X, Y, Z. That might be good until you start tabletopping it. I'm like, oh, well, actually, no, that's not a good idea because they have to do this, like the communications.
Right.
You didn't have all the players involved, and so suddenly you're second guessing what you would have done, and you would have known that unless you sat down and tabletopped it.
Right.
When you say tabletop, is that like a game?
No,
It
it's
looks
more
like
of a,
mini-
no,
mini-
you just, in your business, I think it would be really good because you're a reseller. Is that right? Am I?
Somewhat recycle, but more like, well, repair but going to companies and do a lot of troubleshooting but installation and things like that too.
Gotcha.
And security for them and that kind of thing. And if they have like some kind of breaches, trying to help them stumble. We're starting to get into this more.
Well, it would be good, but in a tabletop, for those that may not understand, what we're talking about is you bring all the key players into the room, kind of like what we did. And it doesn't necessarily have to be all the team members. It can be just key team members from different departments. And you sit at a tabletop and it is kind of a game. And
It's like Dungeons and Dragons a little bit. Here's the scenario.
Yeah.
What is everybody doing?
Yeah, right.
Here's
And
it.
there's no rolling of the dice unless you're playing backdoors and breaches. But what it is that you're sitting there and you're going, okay, we've just had this ransomware event. Go. And then everybody at the table has an opportunity to say, well, this is what I would do. Oh, okay, this is what I would do. And then you can look at them and go, but how would you do that? Well, I would do this and this and this. Okay, well, if you do that, then that impacts me because I can't do this. And so by having everybody at the table, you get to have these deeper discussions, kind of like what we found out with communications and legal, was that, we would do this, and legal was like, no, you can't do that because that puts us, the company, into puts us into a legal situation. So it's better if you do it this way. Oh, okay, that's how we'll do it then. Or for us, well, we would recover the, I don't know, the pharmacy list first. Well, no, we need to recover the, I don't know, whatever list before we can recover the pharmacy list. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I guess it depends also how bad it is, whatever you're talking about. Like if you can't log in at all. Now, this one thing I had started doing with my customers is, even as far as hiring and firing, like when you hire somebody, is to have an agreement, when you hire them, that this is intellectual property. Anytime your passwords or your login is changed, it has to be changed to this person, it has to be verified, it's changed to that person, kind of thing.
There you
When
go.
you leave that company, you need to change those email passwords before you go and fire them, because the old days, you fire somebody, you get their keys, because they're not gonna go make keys before they walk out the door. But you can say you're fired, clean out your desk, they put a flash drive in and take whatever they want to before they walk out the door.
Right.
That's why server rooms are locked. And so many people, I'm way down on the level with these everyday people, and so many people don't have a clue on
Well,
this
it's
stuff.
the communication,
Yeah,
particularly when you start dealing with someone like Curlian or Virginia Tech, there are so many different departments. Everyone's doing their own thing. And all they think about when it comes to security is they're the ones that tell us no.
Oh, no.
They're the ones, they truly say they're the ones that tell them
And they
no, but you
think
don't
about
sit
it.
them down and tell them why you're telling them no. And I think that by having some of those different groups, whether it be CPTS or, some of the other groups, it's having that open line of communication and telling them
But it's
why you're doing
education
it.
too.
Yeah.
So many people just don't know the simplest things. And even people 50 and up, some of it they just don't get. And so.
Nor do
I've
they
been
want
helping
to.
it- Yeah, so I've been helping like educate with those things, but I was thinking about, like, when you were saying tabletop, I was thinking, don't they have like a video game, like in your kind of business, like that you guys would, maybe someone should invent this, like that you guys could go on and simulate.
Well,
as some
and
kind of
there's
hack,
there's
and then
different
you
ways
go
of doing
in
that,
and
but
do that.
yeah.
Play a game on your computer of what do you do?
Yeah,
Well,
I
I think- I
want to
think-
see
You know?
Nancy Agee playing that
Yeah.
game.
I think Doug had a comment.
Here, you know, for left of boom, and to that point, that's where the asset inventory comes in. It's not just asset like the servers and workstations, it's, you know, the resources that you're using. Every department has their own, whatever it's SaaS, you know, software as a service. You've got all these different services out there. And they may not all tie back into AD. There are numerous instances where you've got users who have multiple accounts to your business data that does not reside within the premises. So yeah, when it comes to onboarding and offboarding, the key thing is understanding what roles has access to what systems and data. Because it's not just as simple as we disable their AD account and you wipe your hands over to go on. You have to have that list of, hey, this person has access to this system, this, and this, and this. And what is it all tied to? Oh, we have to log into this system and disable their access to it.
Right.
Because yeah, it's like, yeah, you may say, oh yeah, we disabled the account, change their password. But then once down the road, you find out that this person has still been accessing your financial system, which is not managed by you. It's accessed by your company. But you find out that for this entire time, your account has been used to access that. And then you have an explanation. More problem. But yeah, so that's, yeah, to your point, Rob, I mean, left of boom, I would almost, in the dream world or the perfect world, you'd have security engineering all the way at the left. Because the other piece that you do to help limit the scope of the boom is, you know, proper segmentation of your network and of the data. Because I know from my experience, yeah, you know, if you don't have good asset inventory, that is the foundation for the rest of the cards on your house cards. And if you are missing something there and you don't catch those booms, then everything else is something.
I agree. And we at Carillion, it's something that we are looking at as well, because we've got not only the business systems, but we got medical systems, right?
Yeah, and HIPAA.
Well, in HIPAA,
Yeah.
but more importantly, we've got these systems that kind of ride
Lives on them.
outside of, like, they're not Active Directory
Yeah,
joined.
yeah,
But they're also, they may not be managed by you. Like,
Right.
you have an instance of it, but it's hosted somewhere else. You're counting on that other person or entity to make sure that that environment.
Right, and so that can turn into a management nightmare. So we're very diligent in how we try to manage those types of devices and making sure that we're not just managing just those business system devices, but also that myriad of medical devices that are on our network as well. So,
Well, let me ask you this, Rob, you know, so many particularly larger customers are moving more towards managed services and managed SOC, you know? What's their responsibility? You know, where does that onus lie? You know, who's getting that call? Should they be?
oh,
part
that's a
of
great
that?
question.
I mean,
So the question is for those on the call. So if you've got a managed SOC, who's responsible for what? And so in our case, and I'll let Jared kind of chime in too, because we were part of that conversation. But in our case, it would really came down to the contract. It always comes down to the contract.
IBM.
Actually, we use CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
And we actually have a few, but I'll let you talk to the IBM piece because that's your baby. But for the CrowdStrike piece, you know, we went through a whole contracting process of going, okay. And they were really good about making sure, because they live right of boom. I mean, that's their business.
Yeah.
They live right of boom. And so while they protect us left of boom, like they said, look, you know, here's your playbook. This is, and once you kind of get I guess for them, it's a blueprint to a house, right? You know, it's kind of paint by numbers at that point. This is our playbook, and we can do this and this and this. We can do soup to nuts. We can just take it over. Or anywhere in between.
Right.
So you kind of pick and choose where you want to inject yourself into this process, and that's where we'll tag you in. So in some cases, for our non-clinical systems and, like, you know, just the desktop systems, You see something, mitigate it, take care of it, just do it. In some cases where it's more critical, like you let us know before you touch that
Right.
server. Like before you even look at that thing, you call us because it's critical and we need to know something's going on there. But I mean, and so we often get alerts going, hey, this person downloaded this piece of crapware and we just took care of it for you. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. And moving on. And we just get notified. And then other times they say, hey, the best one is when every now and again I would hack our own network to grab our ntds.dit file and do some password cracks just to see who had crap passwords. And as soon as we brought in CrowdStrike, I tried to do that. They're like, oh, no, you're not. And they shut that down. And then they were immediately like every alarm went off. There's somebody trying to download your Active Directory. Oh, and it was fire on the mountain and it was craziness. And I'm like, no, it's just me. I was doing that on purpose. And like, don't do that. And so I even told them like, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, let me do this. And their tool still wouldn't let me do it. Like it would just crater out. They're like, no, that's so far beyond the norm. You're not even going to do that. So we've abandoned that practice for other things. But yeah, so that's kind of just an example of injecting yourself and having, where do you want to inject yourself into the process is really up to you when it comes to these managed sites. Now, when it comes to our IBM relationship, Jared, you kind of manage that one. So I'll kind of let you talk to that.
Yeah, so I mean, each stock service is different. Some are just going to be alerting, some are going to be actually doing remediative action. So like you talked about, like CrowdStrike has authorized remediative actions that they can take themselves. But not all stocks do that. Like some stocks are just going to tell you, hey, we saw this, they don't have a presence on the network to do it, so they're just going to alert you. But in either instance, it's super important to understand where the delineation point is between you and the SOC. So there's still a lot of, okay, SOC has told us this is bad, and they may or may not have done something. So what do you do? Who do you contact? Who needs to know? Who else needs to be brought in? And all that whole decision process, that communication tree, the stakeholder involvement really has to be defined, really needs to be defined before it has to be used. And then you'll say, okay, we will alert the CISO because it was this threshold of critical or on these critical assets. So we know we alert the CISO, we know we wake up the on-duty manager and spin up our system engineers, network engineers. We know that our next point is we wait to hear back from the SOC on what they've done. We wait for instructions. We take their instructions. We're going to give that to our network engineers, our system engineers. So that needs to try to map it out, because there's the SOC. The SOC is mostly a black box that you feed into and then feed out of. But you know what you need to do on your side. So you map that out, include them as a process in your flow chart, and then make sure that's all documented. And everybody knows, this is who's going to get called, this is who's going to work with CrowdStrike or with your VSOC or whatever it is. Just making sure it's known and it's practiced is really, really important, because when right of the boom, time is precious, and trying to figure out who needs to do what or who needs to be contacted is wasted time.
Yeah,
So
that should be done.
it should be done beforehand,
That's part
so
of
that you
that,
have those
tabletop.
seconds.
Right, yep,
Just
absolutely.
that decision tree.
Yes.
Or.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's something I hadn't really thought about, was the fact that, yeah, you're wasting time if you're trying to figure out who to call. Like that's just,
You have like a document on the wall and a glass container with a hammer. Great, all right, read, what do I do?
you got a comment?
How important do you think is to have these kind of attack tools, like you were saying, where you try to simulate something, like a simulate an attack and things like that? Because I mean, they do have like, so they have automated attack tools, but they also have like you pay somebody to kind of simulate that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So if I get this right, the question is like with your pen testing and stuff like that. Is that where you're going with that?
Yeah, pen testing, but more like just simulating an attack.
With you mean like with your,
like you have tabletop X-Time, but I assume that doesn't defenders, right? That's just a defender. But
yes.
what if in tabletop you also bring an attacker?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Maybe
When that's
purple teaming.
that's what we
Yeah.
call purple teaming. And so purple teaming is actually, are you guys familiar with purple teaming? Is everybody familiar? Okay. All right. So I'll kind of
Frida's the one that turned me on.
Yeah, so purple teaming, so are you familiar with red teams, blue teams? Okay, all right, so let me kind of go from the basics. So a blue team is typically what we are in this room. We're defenders. The defenders of the network are called blue teamers. And I don't know who came up with red team or blue, but maybe it's a Halo reference. I don't know what it is, but anyway, so you got your blue team, and the blue team is typically the ones that are the defenders. And then you've got red teams, which are the attackers. And so a red teaming, you can pay a company, a certified ethical hacker, to come in and actually pen test your environment, right? And so what they do is that they actually attack your environment for money, and then they give you the results. They tell you, this is where you suck. Maybe you need to get better at these areas, because I was able to walk all over you. Then, which is great. And I had actually gotten to the point with a company when we started, this is back with MFA. When we started, it was we were bringing the red teamer, and they walked all over us. And then I guess got really aggressive. And I basically, so by the third time that they were there, the third year they were there, they came in, they plugged in the network, and they got nothing. Like they couldn't even, because I had certificate-based authentication, even down to the port level. So they plugged in and they were like dead in the water. Like it's like, okay, game over. And I'm like, yes, game over, you're done, forget about it. And he's like, well, can you like let me in and then we'll continue? I'm like, yes, but in your report, you're gonna note that I literally had to let you in. And he's like, fair enough. So I let him in, but that we had gotten to the point of purple teaming, and purple team is where you have the blue team and the red team, and he's attacking, and you're literally as a defender sitting there next to him, and he's going, okay, I'm doing this. And you go, yep, I see that on my sim. There it is right there. Let me take a look at that so I can recognize. So you're doing what now? Okay, I'm hitting you with responder right now, and it's killing your ARP tables. Okay, all right, I got that. Okay, yep.
So like a video game.
Sort of like a video game, and more realistically like what you see on TV, like the guy sitting there doing this. So you kind of go back and forth. But what's really cool about that is that he's like, yeah, man, I just hit you with Mimi Cats or whatever the tool of the day is. Dude, I totally didn't see that. What did you do? I did this and this and this. Okay, well, let me tune my tool to hit that. Okay, now try that again. Oh, okay, now I've got you. Now I just saw you doing that, right? So that's a purple team exercise. But that's a long pole goal, because you can't do that right out of the gate, because you've got to understand, like you got to get to a pretty solid state before you start doing purple teams.
And that's where asset inventory is key.
Yes, asset inventory is key.
Otherwise, you're going to be wasting red teamers' time trying to identify, or even getting
You
information
have to
from
educate the
that.
educated person.
So, and I will say this, and we're going to have to shut down because I know these folks that are on the call are probably wanting to take off if they haven't already. But I will say this from a red teaming perspective, when you're living right at the boom with the red team. I actually talked to the guy for many years. We had different people coming in, but the lead person for this group, when I talked to him, he said, it's so nice coming to MFA because we're seeing progress. There's nothing more discouraging to a red teamer than walking into an organization where you have worked your tail off and written this massive report, and you've delivered the report, and you come back the next year and nothing has been done.
Well, that's what, the frustration, I don't know how many pen tests, with Red Spike, did it with Carillion, and you sit there and you get this much of documents, and then you wonder if anyone even reads it.
Yeah. And
They said they check it off and say, oh, we did it, therefore.
right. So you're just checking the box saying, yep, we did it
Yeah.
because we met the compliance standard, but you're not actually applying
Yeah.
it. So if you're going to do it, apply it.
And lessons learned. Having the documented lessons learned is also key. Even when you do your tabletop, having that lessons learned, having some key buy-in. That's why it's important when you have like your tabletop, you have the right people in there so they can see, what went well and what didn't. And then when you try to say, all right, person with the power of the purse, you see where
Yeah.
it failed, and you see, and these people say that this is very important that we get it fixed. It's going to be on the line item for next year's budget.
And you're not wrong.
and then when you tell them in the lessons learned, and the reason is because it affects this, confidentiality of the data, which will run into a whole bunch of money fines and all that. They're like, yeah.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I think and I know that works really well for us because, they hired Jared and us and Eric and all these other guys. And we tell them, man, this is bad. Like, we need to fix this. Okay, yeah, we got it. But when a complete stranger comes in and tells them, for some reason, now that means something. I don't get it.
There's because they're agnostic.
Right. I mean, it's like the complete stranger from off the street comes in and goes, hey, man, like what they said was true. Really? Like they weren't lying? Like, no, we weren't lying. I know. Right. That's it, Jared. We don't charge enough.
That's just like in a marriage, your wife tells you something forever, and then somebody behind you in the grocery store tells you the same thing, and it hits you like you never heard it before.
All right, so actually we have managed to hold on to 12 participants on the WebEx. So everybody say hi to the WebEx folks. Hey. I'm going to see if I can't get them back on the screen. I've got Robert. I've got Robert. That's the only one I'm seeing. I don't know why I only see Robert.
Everyone else has masks on in their pajamas.
I guess nobody else has their camera on. Robert's the only one with their camera on. Okay. Well, thanks, Robert. I appreciate you actually putting your camera on. But anyway, so I appreciate everybody being on, and we are going to go ahead and shut it down for the evening. Thank you guys for participating. And if anybody has any questions, of course, feel free to let me know via info@roanoke.infosec.com. Again, if you're interested in helping, like want to be that guy to keep me straight. Now I'll just line up the speakers and make you do all the heavy lifting. Let me know. And we will talk to you guys next month. Next month, December, probably will not be on Thursday. It'll probably be on a Wednesday. December 8th is what we're looking at. So sorry about that, but we tried to schedule for the 9th, but there was some scheduling conflicts. So look for the next meeting to be December 8th in Roanoke downtown at the what do they call that building? The 9 something building, but it's
Nine West?
no, it's the Gill building or
We're
something.
the ramp accelerator, Mary
Oh,
Miller in that group.
Gill
Yeah,
building or
yeah,
something.
Gilmore, I want to say Gilmore, but it's, yeah.
Yeah,
By
so
the 777 building.
that's it, by the
That's it,
777 building. So
At least
yeah,
it's not the 666.
yeah, right. So in any case, so be looking for that. And then of course, we'll be doing Blade Gaming in January, and then we don't know what's going to happen after that. Maybe we'll do
Sounds
another
great,
piece.
Rob. Good session.
All right. So you guys, we'll see you next time. Talk to you guys later.
Yeah, thank you for the information. Have a good one.
All right. We'll
Thanks,
see.
Rob.
Yep.
You got a lot of chats there too. You see?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Oh,
say-
wait.
Yeah.
Did I miss some
wow.
chats? I'm
Yes.
sorry,
I think they're
folks.
just thanking you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Very good.
It's your questions.
Okay. All right. See you guys later.
Kudos.
Good job, Rob.
Again, it is important to test your